Hi, folks. There's an article in the LBC which is generating quite a bit of debate in its comment thread. So I just want to put in my 50 quid opinion to um, to this debate. Um, what that expression, 50 cents, my 50 cents. Yeah, I guess the analogy would be 50 pence opinion to the whatever. But basically, it's about the issue of drug use and the headline is as follows. I'm going to read out the report because it's not very long. Passports to be seized from middle class cocaine users in bid to smash drug gangs. And the report's by Elizabeth Haig. Boris Johnson is to launch a 10-year plan to clamp down on drug related crime, will include confiscating passports and driving licenses from drug takers. The crackdown will reportedly include football-style travel bans, as well as harsher sentences for dealers and tougher measures on county lines gangs. Before I continue the report, I'll just put my position on this clear. I hate drugs, and I do not like the direction this debate sometimes takes. So that's to put my cards on the table. I'll just continue the article. There will also be record funding for drug rehabilitation services, the Sun reported. Comes as drug misuse poisoning deaths are at a record high and have increased by nearly 80% since 2012. Deputy Prime Minister Dominic Raab told LBC the government plans to smash the economic model of the drug dealers. He emphasized that drug dealers rely on all clientele and that the odd middle class line of cocaine must be tackled as well as helping habitual users. Mr. Raab said, "We know the amount of crime reoffending that is linked to drugs. We want to smash the gangs. We want to encourage and require offenders to get clean of drugs, which is the best way for them to get straight." In July, the government announced a new unit to tackle drug related illness after the second phase of Dame Carol Black's independent review of drugs was released. The first phase, published in February, found that there were around 1 million people using cocaine in England every year. That's 1 million? That's a lot higher than I thought. The review has also valued the UK illegal drugs market at 9.4 billion. PM Boris Johnson is expected to announce millions of pounds in funding for the police to tackle drug gangs. And that's the report. So the trajectory of the comments is pretty much attacking the government and saying it's just to get headlines. Let's tackle the root causes. And the pro-drugs lobby, as always, are very vocal. They always make the argument the war on drugs has failed. So party time. Let's all just legalize all drugs, and that's fine. Um, so there's a few things to look at with this. Firstly, I think there's a huge difference between a wealthy or well-off, let's say, socialite snorting cocaine in a London club versus a homeless person using a street drug as a coping mechanism because of their very difficult circumstances. I think there's a huge difference. And people seem to be jumping on the bandwagon with this article, sort of thinking, oh, the government's persecuting all users. I don't think that's what it's doing. Um, I mean, they're ignoring the fact that there's also going to be a record spent on rehabilitation of users and help for users in that sense. But one thing that really bothers me is people of the pro drugs lobby, for want of a better term, that is people who think we should legalize all drugs. I think that's a fair way to put it, the pro drugs lobby, because they are by definition pro drugs. They might say, "Oh, I wouldn't use that myself," but they are essentially arguing for drugs, right? There's no way around it. So, lost my trail of thought. Yeah, responsibility. Responsibility is a word that seems to be missing from all of this. You know, if someone snorts a line of cocaine, they are choosing to take an illegal substance. They know it's illegal. No one can honestly say they don't know that cocaine is illegal in this country, as it is in most places. Um, so where's the question of responsibility? This argument, although criminalize users, um, if someone's breaking the law, they're committing a criminal act. Now, I understand that some people are spiked. I understand that people could get addicted to prescription drugs. I understand there's peer pressure. I understand those things. But I'm talking about people who basically just do it because they want a good time. I'm not talking about so much people who do it as a matter of a coping mechanism for some trauma in their life. I still don't think they should do it, but much like people abuse alcohol or comfort eat, it's a coping mechanism. But socialites who just snort cocaine in a club because they can, nah, I've no sympathy with them. And that seems to be what this is targeting. Now, the pro drugs lobby, my question to them would be, okay, let's just legalize all drugs. Probably this will take power away from criminal gangs, which is a good thing. But you still have the problem of the health effects of these substances, all the health associated problems with them. Um, so then there'll need to be a lot of money spent on rehabilitation. There'll need to be a lot of money spent on getting people off those things, off those substances. I mean, put it this way, tobacco's legal, but as we know, it's a major killer. Um, Probably kills more people than cocaine and heroin put together. But we know what the effects are. You could get lung cancer, you could get all sorts of other problems. It's quite clear cut. And the point with tobacco is since 2007, since the smoking ban in England and Wales, there have been extensive campaigns to get people to quit. And since that time, a lot of people have quit. Now, I'm not a Puritan. I enjoy the occasional drink, and I'm a former smoker. But I would never say smoking's a good thing. I would never be a cheerleader for smoking. I quit in part because I was intending to join the armed forces, and I just want to be healthy for to pass the fitness tests. And I want to have a long life, so um, that's why I quit tobacco smoking. I was never an extensive smoker, but I smoke periodically. I've covered this in a few videos. I don't believe in stigmatizing smokers. I don't believe that they should be treated like criminals. I don't even think that drug users should be necessarily treated like criminals in the sense of, in the same vein as arsonists or muggers. But if something is against the law and you choose to do it, you might not be a criminal in the sense that, a career criminal, but you are breaking the law. And one thing that frustrates me about this debate is the pro drugs lobby seem to totally ignore that responsibility aspect. Like I say, it's different if someone's been spiked or there's significant peer pressure or they've got addicted from prescription drugs. But if someone chooses to take an illegal, dangerous substance, they have responsibility. And the pro drugs lobby seem to ignore that fact. Um, but I don't know how anyone could rationally deny that someone snorting cocaine in London clubs isn't fueling gang wars and violence, because it is. Uh, I mean, look at the American situation, North American situation. Peak year for homicides in New York City was 1990, right? In that year, New York City recorded over 2,000 murders. It was a byword for violence and crime at that time. It's improved significantly, although during the pandemic, crime has went up a bit in all American cities. But New York City now averages about 500 murders. Um, New York, as far as I know, hasn't legalized all drugs. So, this idea that you legalize all drugs, crime will drop is doesn't necessarily follow. And frankly, there aren't enough case studies. There aren't enough examples to really know if this will work. Portugal is often quoted. I believe there's a couple of other jurisdictions, but there really isn't many. The vast majority of the world, even more liberal states like Sweden, have laws against drugs, right? So frankly, it just isn't enough data to say the Portuguese model, for example, oh, let's all copy Portugal. What might work in Portugal won't necessarily work in the UK. That's not to say that we shouldn't look at different models, but the pro-drugs lobby are very quick. So the war on drugs has failed. Look at Portugal. Let's legalize all drugs. happy times. But they're ignoring the fact that even if you legalize all drugs, there will still be, um, you know, health problems associated with them. I mean, even something like cannabis, and I'm broadly more sympathetic to legalizing cannabis, but something like that has been connected to schizophrenia. Um, all substances can have serious health effects. Even if you drink too much coffee, it could give you heart palpitations. But I just have a big problem with normalizing something like cocaine or heroin, and that's what the drug lobby do. They try to normalize this stuff like it's harmless. Um, I think it's evil. I think it's dangerous, evil, toxic stuff. And yeah, sure, it'll give you a great time in the beginning. But even if when I see this in films, I cringe, and I don't consider myself a Puritan. But for example, Rocket Man, the biopic about Elton John, when he's popping back the pills and all that. Firstly, it's a bit of a cliche with the world of rock stars, but um, it makes me uneasy. Not because I feel holier than thou. It's just because it is what it is. It messes people up. Um, And that's a big problem I have with the pro drugs lobby. They they try to normalize this stuff. They talk about how government policies fail and how the war on drugs has failed, but they don't talk about um, the negative side effect of drugs, of which, there's so much to say. It's just I just don't understand the mentality that something like that should be normalized. I understand the argument about taking power away from drug dealers, and I certainly think that dealers should be hammered much, much harder than users. But users have responsibility, and if someone commits a violent act because they want to feed their drug habit, are they a victim? I'm reluctant to say so. I suppose in the sense that, I know the effects of addiction not firsthand. I don't have any friends in that position, but I'm not blind to the world that we are in. Film Basketball Diaries with Leonardo DiCaprio is a good shot of heroin abuse in the streets of New York in the 70s. DiCaprio's performance, incidentally, was superb. It's a powerful film, but that doesn't say to me, "Oh, let's legalize all drugs." That says to me, it's just a reminder of how evil drugs are. Um, and same with train spotting. I mean, I think Irvine Welsh would probably be of the school of thought, let's legalize it all, and he'd be very much of that persuasion. But when I see train spotting again, it just reiterates this is evil. Sorry for the language, but this is evil shit. I don't know how anyone could try and normalize that stuff. Um, yes, it's part of our society. Yes, people use it, but it's not normal. Um, and I just think that the pro drugs lobby are very quick to talk about how it should all be legal, but they're not, there just isn't enough data available and information available on how effective that would be. I'm not saying we should never ever consider it. I just think they're a bit cavalier in their attitude, frankly. Um, I know what would they say to parents who've lost teenagers to substance abuse? Um, I just think there's nothing positive about it. Um, So I'll put a link to this report. Summed up, it may be that the Tories are just trying to take headlines away from their sleeves, but the point is, and I think people didn't really read the full article, the point is they're also putting a lot of money into rehab. It's targeting middle class cocaine users. It's not targeting all drug users. But how anyone can rationally say that drug use doesn't fuel the trade, which in turn fuels violence, um, I mean, the clubs all over the world where this happens. It could be London, Buenos Aires, Moscow, Los Angeles. This filthy trade, it's just people have responsibility. People have responsibility. And if you're committing a criminal act, you could be pretty sure somewhere along the lines someone is suffering as a result. That's my take. I appreciate people might disagree, But all I would say is if you are of the school of thought, let's legalize all drugs, at least acknowledge there's nothing good about the likes of heroin. You know, it should never be normalized or glorified. And the thing about legalizing all drugs, I think it does send out a message that it's okay. And anyway, the government then have to spend lots of money, like they've done with tobacco, on trying to get people off it.